Hi, I'm Sarah from Nüton Nutrition Education. We're a team of registered dietitians powered by Dairy Farmers of Manitoba. Today, we're going to be talking about the important role of milk and dairy products in everyday eating, and we'll be making a couple of delicious recipes. But first, we'll start off with a brief review of Canada's Food Guide, then talk specifically about protein foods, and we'll finish off with those delicious recipes, which you can also make at home. So what is Canada's Food Guide? The Food Guide is a resource for the general public that communicates the recommendations found in Canada's dietary guidelines. The purpose of the Food Guide is to promote healthy eating and overall nutritional well-being. It recommends a regular intake of nutritious foundational foods that make up a pattern of eating associated with good health. What you may be most familiar with when it comes to the Food Guide is Canada's Food Guide Snapshot. So this snapshot is a summary of the recommendations found in Canada's dietary guidelines. It's a tool intended as a quick reference. On the first page of Canada's Food Guide Snapshot is where you'll find messaging about nutritious foods as the foundation for healthy eating. It tells us Canada's Food Guide recommends we eat a variety of healthy foods each day, including have plenty of vegetables and fruits, choose whole grain foods, and eat protein foods. In other words, what Canada's Food Guide is trying to tell us is that foundational foods should be eaten regularly, and these foundational foods include vegetables, fruit, whole grains, and protein foods. In the previous version of Canada's Food Guide, protein foods were divided into two food groups, meat-and alternatives and milk-and alternatives. In the current Food Guide, these two food groups have been combined and renamed as protein foods. Dairy products, including milk, cheese, yogurt, and kefir, are nutritious foundational foods and are represented in Canada's Food Guide as protein foods alongside meat, fish, eggs, tofu, legumes, fortified soy beverage, and nuts and seeds. Variety is key when it comes to enjoying protein foods. While all proteins, animal or plant-based, help build and support muscle in the body, not all protein foods share the same makeup or combination of nutrients. In other words, while all protein foods contain protein, not all protein foods contain additional nutrients like calcium, fiber, and iron. This means that different protein foods support the body in different ways, including bone health, gut health, and overall body health. So for example, protein foods with calcium build and keep bones strong. Some examples of bone-building protein foods include dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt. Other examples of protein-containing foods with calcium have been fortified, which means nutrients like calcium have been added. These foods include fortified soy beverage and regular or firm tofu. Another way protein foods can support health is by being a source of fiber, which helps to keep the gut healthy. Some examples of protein foods that support gut health include nuts and legumes, such as chickpeas, beans, split peas, lentils, and soybeans. Other protein foods which contain iron help the body to move and think. Some examples of protein foods containing iron include red meat like beef, pork, wild game, eggs, legumes, and tofu. So to support overall good health, it is important to enjoy a variety of different types of protein foods to benefit from a variety of different nutrients like the ones just mentioned. So calcium, fiber, and iron. The final guiding statement in Canada's Food Guide recommends make water your drink of choice. Canada's Food Guide also states healthy drink options other than water can include milk. Remember, the Snapshot is just a quick reference tool, so not all nutritious food choices have been included. On Health Canada's website is where you'll find more information. It may be helpful to think of Canada's food guide as an iceberg, where just the tip of the iceberg is visible above the surface of the water, but underneath the water, the base or foundation of the iceberg that supports the tip is much greater. Similarly, if the Snapshot were the tip of the iceberg, it shows just a little bit of information. And if all of the supporting information in Canada's food guide were the base of the iceberg, we'd have to search a little deeper on Health Canada's website to find more detail on the recommendations. And so, it is on Health Canada's website that you will find more information about healthy drink choices, including milk. When it comes to quenching thirst, water is a great choice. With a meal or snack, milk or fortified soy beverage not only provide hydration, but also protein, vitamins, and minerals like calcium. For more information, I recommend checking out Canada's Food Guide on Health Canada's website. So now that we've had a brief review on Canada's Food Guide and looked more closely at the important role of dairy as a foundational food, let's get to the fun part and start cooking. The first recipe we're going to make is oatmeal pancakes. I've started off by washing my hands. The use of oats in this recipe is what makes it unique. So today we're using quick oats, which are also sometimes referred to as instant oats. And although they go through a little more processing than your typical rolled oat, both rolled oats or whole oats and quick oats are derived from the whole oat groat, which makes them both whole grains. So the difference is not in the nutritional value, rather in the texture and the cook time. So quick oats are cut finer and they are rolled thinner, which means that they actually have a quicker cook time, which makes them a lot more convenient. And they're also more convenient in this particular recipe because we're going to be adding milk to the oats. The finer cut of the oat is going to allow the oats to soak up the milk more quickly and soften more easily. So we're going to add our milk to the oats. We now know that milk is a protein food that is high in calcium and is good for bone building. I used 1% milk today because that's what I have in my fridge, but you can use any kind of milk you like, even a lactose-free milk if you are unable to tolerate lactose, if you cannot digest lactose, which is the naturally occurring sugar in milk. So you can use any milk you like. We are going to mix up the oats and the milk a little bit. And we're going to set this bowl aside and really just let those oats stand or soak up the milk and soften while we get the rest of our ingredients together. So our other ingredients are our dry ingredients. So to a large bowl, we are going to add whole wheat flour. So half whole wheat flour and half all-purpose flour. So the reason why we're using half and half is so that we get the benefits from the fiber in the whole wheat flour, but we don't want to make it overly dense because we already have all those oats which are going to be already rich in fiber. So a half and half blend of our whole wheat flour and our all-purpose flour is going to be a really nice mixture for these pancakes. We're also going to add our leavening agent, which is our baking powder. So our baking powder works as a leavening agent because it allows our pancakes to fluff up and get nice and light as we would typically expect a pancake to be. Then we're going to add a little bit of flavoring. So we've got some brown sugar as well as some cinnamon and some salt. And then we're going to mix that all up. And so once our dry ingredients our mix together. We'll break up some of that brown sugar a little bit. So once our dry ingredients are nicely mixed, it's time to prepare the rest of our wet ingredients. So now that our oats have had some time to soak up some of that milk and soften up, it's time to add some of our additional wet ingredients. So we have 2 eggs that we've already beaten. We're going to add those and mix. And then we're going to add some melted butter. And so then we have a wet mixture as well as a dry mixture. So the combination of the milk and the oats, so the protein and the fiber, there's also protein in our eggs, is really going to pack a nutritional powerhouse of both energy as well as nutrition in these pancakes. So these are going to be really nutritious pancakes. They're also going to keep us fuller or feeling fuller for longer because of the protein and the fiber that we're getting from those ingredients. And so that is why they make a great breakfast, which keeps us going all morning long, or really could be used for any meal of the day. So we're going to add our wet ingredients to our dry ingredients. And then we're going to mix to combine, but we don't want to overmix. So just until it looks like the dry is mixed into the wet, and there may still be a couple lumps, and that's okay. Just want to make sure that there is no flour or dry mixture left at the bottom of the bowl, which it appears that there is not. Okay. So we're ready to take our oat pancake batter to the frying pan to the stovetop. Okay, so now it's time to cook our pancakes. We've brought the batter over to the stove. We've got a large skillet over medium heat, to which we've added a pat of butter, so about a tablespoon of butter. It's just melting right now, and we're going to give the pan a little bit of a tilt and a swirl to distribute that butter evenly across the bottom of the pan. The butter is going to help the pancakes and prevent them from sticking to the bottom of the pan. The butter also gives the pancakes a really nice flavor as well as a really nice crispiness to it. So our butter is nicely melted and we're ready to make our pancakes. So today we're using a 1/4 cup measuring cup. So this is just a dry measure. It's a nice way to get even pancakes. So it doesn't look like a lot of batter. And so it's going to make smaller pancakes, but keep in mind that these pancakes, as I mentioned earlier, are pretty dense because of all of that rich fiber and protein that we're getting from our ingredients. So you may want smaller pancakes. If not, you could certainly use a 1/3 cup measure or even a 1/2 cup measure, whatever your preference is. This one's looking a little bit small, so let's add a little bit more batter to that. Okay. But the idea is that we want all of our pancakes to be approximately the same size. So oatmeal pancakes are a little bit different from traditional pancakes in that we're looking for different signs of being done. So a traditional pancake, typically when it's done, signals that it is done on the one side by bubbling. So it will bubble all throughout the pancake, which means it's ready to be flipped. With these pancakes, again, because they're so dense, they'll bubble a little bit, but not nearly as much. So we're also looking for a second sign. Now that second sign is dry edges around the pancake. And what that's telling us is that the pancake is cooked through or all the way to the edges on the one side. So when it's looking dry around the edges, that means it's ready for those pancakes to be flipped. Okay, so our pancakes are starting to bubble a little bit, and they're starting to look a little bit dry around the edges. And they'll still look a little bit wet in the middle, but that's okay. Let's flip the first pancake we poured. And what we're looking for is a nice golden brown. We'll let the pancakes continue to cook for about a minute or so on this side, and then we'll transfer it over to a plate. Okay, so our pancakes are done and they're ready to be transferred to a plate or platter. And then we're going to repeat the process. So we need to grease the pan between each batch of pancakes. So another pat of butter. I'm going to swirl it around. And then once again, use our measuring cup. And continue letting our pancakes cook until we're all done. Our second recipe today is called Soak Up the Sun Fruit Dip. This dip, with only 3 ingredients, is super easy to make. And although it is intended as a fruit dip, it can be used as a dip. It could also be used as a flavored yogurt, or even as a spread or topping for pancakes. Our first ingredient is Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is a protein food. Greek yogurt is a good source of protein. It's also a good source of calcium. It's often used for dips because of its nice, thick texture. Now this dip is called Soak Up the Sun dip because we are using sunflower butter. Some people also know sunflower butter as sun butter. And so it has a very similar taste to peanut butter, but it is a good choice for those who are allergic to nuts. And so we're going to use our sun butter in this particular dip. However, if you aren't concerned about a nut allergy or you don't have sun butter at home, you could certainly use natural peanut butter as an alternative. So we're going to mix that together. Now the third and final ingredient in this recipe is honey. Now the honey is optional, so what I would recommend doing is tasting the dip before adding the honey. See how you like it, and if you'd like to add a little bit of sweetness to it, then you would go ahead and add the honey. So we'll add the honey in there. Mix it all together. And so that is it. That is your Soak Up the Sun fruit dip. Really easy to make. It smells so delicious. I want to have some right now, but I think I'm going to save it for our pancakes for later. So today we talked about the important role of milk and dairy products in everyday eating. We started off with a brief review of Canada's Food Guide, then talked specifically about protein foods, including what are protein foods and the benefits of enjoying a variety of different protein foods. And then we finished up with 2 delicious recipes, including oatmeal pancakes, where the combination of protein-rich milk and oats high in fiber makes this meal a powerhouse of nutrition and energy to fuel your day. We then made Soak Up the Sun fruit dip with only 3 ingredients. Is so easy to make, and although it's intended as a fruit dip, it can also be enjoyed as a flavored yogurt or a spread or topping for your pancakes. To enjoy these pancakes, you can eat them the classic way with maple syrup, or if you wanted to add some additional variety to this meal, you could top the pancakes with our Soak Up the Sun dip and pile on some cut fruit. Today I've got some cut bananas and I've also got some cut strawberries. If you prefer a more savory pancake over a sweet pancake, you could certainly enjoy these pancakes with a little bit of sour cream, as well as some shredded cheese and some green onions on top. If you have leftover pancakes, they can be stored in a resealable container and they freeze really well. A neat trick to reheating pancakes without them getting soggy is simply popping them in the toaster. If your pancakes are frozen, just put them in for a couple of rounds and then they're ready to go. I I hope you enjoyed these delicious recipes today and have an opportunity to make them at home and try them. Both of these recipes are available on our website at dairyfarmersmb.ca.